our partners in the media, good morning. Welcome to the monthly media conference of the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados, CTUSAB. Thank you for taking the time to cover this morning's event. For those of you who are not aware, my name is Carthene Greenwich. I sit as the Public Relations Officer of the Congress, and it is my task to lead this morning's press conference. To my immediate right is our President, Comrade Ryan Phillips, and to his immediate right is our General Secretary, whom you are all well aware of, Comrade Dennis DePisa. This morning, the Congress intends to address three matters or three categories. We want to speak to you about the inclusion or the non-inclusion of CTUSAB as a member of the National Committee and State-Owned Enterprises. We want to give you an update on our views on that, followed by a presentation by our General Secretary on the review of government's policy initiative. And as we normally do, we speak to industrial relations matters of concern to the Congress. And following that, you are welcome to engage us with any questions relative to anything that we may have shared today, or anything you consider of national importance that you think CTUSAB should have a view on. With that said, I am going to allow the opportunity for President Ryan Phillips to speak to this matter of the non-inclusion of C2SAB. Brother Phillips.
It's always a pleasure when we can sit with the media. In fact, what I'm seeing as months as we proceed over the last couple of months is a true dedication of media, to the voices of the workers, and that in itself is commendable. From our perspective, and I wish to maintain this sort of relationship as we get the voice across for those who, unfortunately, in some cases, cannot do it for themselves. I just want to make a correction to what the public relations officer would have said as it relates to the reasons that we're here, and that is not the National Committee of State-Owned Enterprises, but on national committees and in some cases, state-owned enterprises. This morning, CTUSAB calls for the representation on national committees and state-owned enterprises affecting workers' rights and livelihoods. CTUSAB, as the umbrella body representing the majority of trade unions and staff associations across the island, has long been recognized as the central partner in the Barbados system of social dialogue. It is a signatory of the tripartite protocol under the framework of the social partnership, which is one of the strongest and most respected social compact models within the Caribbean region. Despite this, it is with deep disappointment and concerned that CTUSAB continues to be excluded from several key national boards and committees, especially those that have direct implications for workers' rights, condition of work, income security, and social protections. This issue has been brought into sharp focus by the recent announcement of the changes to the Minimum Wage Act and mention of an advisory committee that has been established in association with this legislation. CTUSAB was neither consulted in the creation of this committee nor invited to have representation on the committee. This is not a minor oversight, but more so, it is a significant breach to the spirit and the intention of the tripartite process. CTUSAB must emphatically assert that no committee discussing wages, employment standard, labor reform, or the socio-economic development can be considered complete or legitimate without proper and meaningful worker representation. And that representation must come from CTUSAB as a duly constitutional national body of organized labor. CTUSAB is not seeking token involvement, but it is demanding that the National Trade Union Center is engaged in the decision-making process on fundamental matters which affect the daily lives, income, workplace rights, and lives and the future of families. This is not only good governance, it is about being just, fair, and democratic. For those who may want to question why CTUSAB must be involved, it is to be understood that CTUSAB is the legitimate and recognized body representing the majority of trade unions and staff associations in Barbados. Its membership base spans multiple sectors and includes both public and private sector workers. And its voice reflects the collective experience, struggles, and aspirations of the working population. Tripartism is accepted as a guiding principle which Barbados has embraced as an approach to national development, where government, employers, and workers deliberate as equal partners. Then to exclude CTUSAB is to unravel the very fabric. Representation cannot be selective, conditional, or political, or even convenient. It must be institutional, structured, and consistent. CTUSAB cannot be faulted on the debt of expertise and perspectives which it brings, which goes well beyond advocacy. The Congress brings insights, research, history, and solution to the table. Our representatives are not only passionate, they are experienced, informed, and deeply committed to the national progress. CTUSAB is adamant that committees that affect workers' livelihoods must be above reproach. Hence, CTUSAB views that based on its commitment to transparency, trust, and accountability, its involvement will certainly increase public confidence in the process and outcomes. This would assure workers that decisions are not being made behind closed doors without their knowledge or consent. There is ample evidence drawn from the corridors of the world that support the fact that when workers are excluded from policy formulation, it leads to unrest, inequity, and broken trust. Barbados cannot afford such an experience. A balanced policy that reflects the realities of all stakeholders is only possible when the workers' voice is included through the appropriate and established national representatives. CTUSAB therefore calls on government to immediately review the composition of all national boards and committees that touch and concern labor and workers' welfare. Additionally, to ensure that CTUSAB is invited to nominate or select its representatives on all such committees, especially where decisions are being made in relation to wage policy, labor reform, safety and health, productivity, and social protection. Finally, to affirm the principles of the tripartite agreement and the social partnership by respecting the institutional place of CTUSAB as a voice of the worker in national decision making. CTUSAB remains committed to dialogue, national development, and the building of a resilient and just society. But let us be clear, participation must be real. It must not be rhetorical. It should be one of inclusion, and inclusion must be guaranteed and not granted in fragments. CTUSAB stands ready to serve and to contribute responsibly, intelligently, and faithfully to the work of shaping a better future for all Barbadians, especially those who work hard each day to sustain our economy and our society.
I have been asked by the President to make an additional input into what he has said, and therefore I am going to give a bit of that will support the statement and or the contents of the statement which he has read. So it is to be clearly stated that CTUSAB has an interest in having representation on boards and committees that are of immediate interest to Labour. Currently, the Congress has representation on the boards of the 21 and it's now 22, the other bar academy coming to being, that the 22 of the secondary schools, but has no representative on the boards of tertiary institutions. I speak specifically to the Barbados Community College, the Sam Jackman Preston Institute of Technology, the Barbados Vocational Training Board, and the Earlston College. The Congress believes that the Technical and Vocational Education and Training Council, TVEC, should also be added to that list. It's to be expected that with the move towards the University College of Barbados, that CTUSAB will be invited to nominate a representative to serve on that board when it's established. It's difficult to comprehend the decision taken by the government to remove CTUSAB as a member of the board of directors of the Municipal Hospital. When the QEH transitioned to an SOE, CTUSAB was named in the QEH Act as a member of the board of directors. Outside of the board of the QEH and the Barbados Agricultural Development Marketing Corporation, CTUSAB has not been invited to serve on any major SOEs, such as the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, the Barbados Water Authority, and the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. It is inconceivable that federal government did not include CTUSAB to serve as a member of the National Minimum Wages Board, a board that is responsible for the review of wages and advising the minister on minimum wage matters. While the Congress has made a call for more inclusion, it acknowledges that it currently has representation on the board of the Barbados Accreditation Council, the Employment Rights Tribunal, the National Advisory Council on Occupational Safety and Health, the Barbados Transport Authority, the National Child Labour Committee, the People's Development Advisory Committee, the National Advisory Committee on Citizen Security, and the Social Justice Committee, along with the Job Evaluation Committee.